even though I have insomnia a lot of times, for a few hours, I still get really good experiences. Because then, you know, eventually I fall asleep. But anyway, so I had insomnia for a couple nights, but I still got some sleep. But, okay, so this morning, I was walking in the neighborhood of my grandma's house, where the aliens have placed me many, many, many times before, under other OBE VR scenarios. So I was walking in that neighborhood over there, and, you know, the exact same neighborhood in real life. And I was walking towards my grandma's house, and, this is funny. A gay older woman started walking up beside me, that I hadn't seen in a while under this scenario. But I sort of knew who she was. So this is a woman I haven't seen in a while, but I knew who she was. Like, I knew she had lived in kind of down the street from my grandma or whatever, but that's not really true in real life. And, okay, let's see, she lived with. Oh yeah, and so I started thinking about the person that she had lived with. And, and I knew that person had drug problems, or previous drug problems. And, okay, so as she was walking up next to me when I was walking towards my grandma's house, I was thinking about, you know, the person that she lived with. I guess her lover or whatever. And I knew that, you know, she had drug problems or previous drug problems. And I was thinking about the other. And I was also thinking about, like in my mind under the scenario, I was thinking about the other brown-headed woman who lived in another house near, you know, that woman and, you know, that couple or whatever. And I was wondering if she lived alone now. But she never did discuss that person. But the aliens just got it all confused, and the neighborhood confused, because this other woman I'm thinking of, actually I don't know where she lives, but she lives on the other part of town in real life, the woman that I was thinking of. But in the scenario, the aliens put her in this neighborhood, by, you know, in my grandma's neighborhood. Okay, so the woman that walked up beside me, she was older and had gray hair, longish hair, and was asking me and was wondering if I had drug problems. She just like assumed I did or something. And I was thinking, do I look like I'm a drug addict? I was shocked she would ask me that. Aliens put all that in my scenario because deep down I know most people are alcoholics and drug addicts. So they put all those thoughts and beliefs and truths, you know, that's in my brain in the scenario. The woman was just trying to be helpful since she knew resources to help people with that. It almost seems like she was kind of like a counselor, like that was her job. So the woman was just trying to be helpful since she knew resources, you know, to help people with drug problems and stuff. So anyway, we kept talking and walking. Then I ended up at my grandma's driveway and was standing in it, and then a half shabby looking school bus showed up in the driveway to drop off my friend Angie. This was a really gross half school bus, but it was like brown. It was supposed to be the Oats bus, but the aliens got it all confused. And it was like, anyway, the bus was kind of brown and shabby, like not yellow. It was very shabby and old looking, and half a bus. And it was so funny. It was just sitting there in the driveway. It was very vivid. All of the scenarios was very vivid. And the chauffeur basically dropped off Angie. So Angie and the chauffeur walked up and was like, Angie and the chauffeur walked up because the chauffeur, you know, had dropped off Angie at my grandma's house, and that's where I was standing. Angie and the chauffeur walked up, and I was like, my grandma is dead. She doesn't live here any longer. Other people live here now. And that's true in real life. I was wondering why the bus dropped her off at my grandma's house in the scenario. I was thinking, why, you know, is the chauffeur dropping her off here? Because I knew my grandma was dead. But the other question is, why was I walking to my grandma's house? You know, the aliens, you know, they get all confused and stuff. Okay, so then Angie got into my car and she pulled out this huge flour, crusty calzone type of thing. I don't know what it's called exactly. That's the only. It may be called something else, like it's big old long, crusty. Anyway, like a calzone type of thing, calzone or whatever it's called. But it wasn't. I'm not sure what it was. It was like 13 inches long and 4 inches thick, and it was just all. I don't know what was on the inside. It was just all crust. And I was thinking, why do people always have to have gluten in short proximity to me? Because aliens know I don't want that shit anywhere near me. So they aggravate me by putting gluten in my scenarios. So then we drove to the movie theater. This is kind of like scene number 3. So then we drove to the movie theater with her and the other woman who was walking with me. I don't know what the outside of my car looked like or whatever in the scenario. That wasn't shown to me. But we got into the car and everything. I don't actually remember driving to the movie theater, but that was the next scene. Like we were in the car and then boom, we were at the movie theater. But sometimes I'm literally driving in the scenario. I mean, for a long time. But anyway, so then we drove to the movie theater with her and the other woman who was walking with me. Both people were in my car. But I don't exactly remember. I don't exactly remember the gray-headed woman being in my car, but apparently she was. So then we drove to the AMC movie theater, and in real life, that is the one that I go to. In the scenario, we were going to the AMC movie theater, and in real life, that's where I go to, and in the scenario, it was, about 100% exact. The inside was exact in my scenario. And the last time I went there in real life, I asked if you could still buy tickets in person, and they sort of pointed out, and this is all in real life. The last time I went to the movie theater in real life was a couple weeks ago or whatever, and I asked them if you could still buy movie tickets in person, and they sort of pointed out where the concession stand was in an area which was to the right of the popcorn maker or concession stand area. So I had that thought stored in my brain, and the aliens ran with that. So under this OBE scenario, like online, they act like you got to make reservations and you can only pay for them online. But you can go ahead and go in there and buy them in person, or you could buy them from that little kiosk thing. You don't have to reserve them and buy them online. So under this OBE scenario, I walked to that same area, and a woman worker was selling tickets behind the glass, stand. The counter was glass and see-through. Angie and the gray-headed woman were behind me, and there's 40 other people waiting to get tickets. So I gave her my red credit card and had my phone on me, my iPhone. And she was acting like, oh, you have to receive the tickets by phone and or text through some app. And I was like, no, I want physical tickets. The aliens are funny because they know I don't like to screw around with apps and don't like to keep up with new trends. So then she was like, okay, well, this is going to take a while. She said she would have to print them out. Our movie started at 12:20 p.m. And we got there right at noon. I know all this because I actually looked at the clock on the theater walls. It said noon. So anyway, as I was standing there, more than 30 minutes went by as I was waiting for my tickets. As I looked at the clock again, more than 30 minutes went by as I was waiting for my tickets. And I looked at the clock again, and I was like, crap, we're going to miss the movies. Because it was already like 12:45 or something like that. And somehow the aliens programmed for me to know that 30 minutes went by. And I was thinking, these people behind me are going to get pissed off for waiting on me. Finally, they never got pissed off. And finally, I got my ticket, which was reddish looking. The paper was reddish looking. And was about 4 inches by 5 inches. Yeah, it was a very huge ticket. And she laid it down on the glass counter as I looked down at it. Then she laid down my credit card, and it was wrapped in a little bit of like paper around it. like, I don't know, like a receipt or something. Yeah, that's what it was. It was a receipt. She said she had to mail it to me. I told her that's stupid. So she was going to give me the... So then she started giving me the third degree, saying why she had to mail it. So then I stood there and I thought about it for a while, and I grabbed it and I ran off with it. And I was still perturbed since I knew the movie had already started. The people waiting in line, and the people waiting in line, and the woman was like, oh my God, like the people waiting in line, and the woman, the clerk or whatever, or the ticket woman was like, oh my God, I cannot believe she did that. She can't believe that I just took my credit card and ran off with it. The aliens put that part in the scenario because my brother in real life went to the bank and left his license in there, and he went back like a couple hours later, or maybe even been less than that, and they said they mailed it. And by the way, I never made it into the movies. That was the end of the scenario. We never got to see the movie. We never got to, we never walked into the theater room. We were just in the theater, and then as I walked off with my credit card, that was pretty much the end of the scenario. But yeah, my brother was like pissed off, because I heard him in the background when he was talking to my mom in real life. He was like, you don't think I'm, going to come back and get it, Like, how stupid they are. Why would they fucking mail it when, or at least don't mail it for at least 48 hours later, you know what I'm saying? But they went ahead and freaking mailed it, and my brother never got it. Well, that's another conspiracy. I don't know what the hell's going on there. And my brother was going on and on about how he needed the birth certificate. This was several months ago, and he still hasn't went to get his damn driver's license. So I don't know what's up with that. But then I have had a million others. I'm not going to be able to talk about all of them because I never have enough storage. Rollerblade. Oh, okay. And then yesterday I had one where I was at my Aunt Elaine's condo, but in the scenario it was like a condo instead of a mansion or a big house. It was like a condo, and it was kind of set up just kind of like I was just before the scenario. I was flipping the channels and I saw this. It kind of looked like it was the Jeffersons, but it wasn't the Jeffersons. It was some other show that I've never seen before. But it had that Jefferson woman in it, and they both, her and another black woman, were standing out there in a chair in front of like their apartment complex. So the aliens copied that, and this in the scenario, because it was kind of like that in the scenario, Elaine's condo. And so and it's like I was staying with her, and she was and I was like walking around the condo, and I was like, wow, she doesn't sit still, does she? Because she's like walking around doing laundry, rearranging stuff. And I went outside. I walked outside down the few stairs, and I started flying my drone. And then I somehow crashed it, and I lost it. And then like I went back out there to look for it, and I finally found it. I found my drone. It took me a while to find it. I found the drone, and then about 2.5 feet to my left, I saw the cord, the charger. I found the charger. Funny how the remote wasn't part of the scenario, but the charger was in my drone. I found both of them. So I was happy about that. And then I went back inside, my Aunt Elaine's condo, and this went on for hours and hours. And those scenarios this morning, crap, I don't know, that probably went on for about 3 or 4 hours too. All of those scenes, maybe 5 hours, something like that, in on 3D time. But yeah, so I went back in her condo, and it was just her living there because John, he was already dead and everything, my uncle, and in real life he's dead. So in the scenario, that's why he wasn't in there, because he was already dead. And it was just my Aunt Elaine, and it was just me. And but I went upstairs. I walked upstairs, and I went into the ex's what do you call it? Ex cousin. Well, no, she's still my cousin, but she used to live in the condo when she was younger, but now she's all grown up, you know, so she wasn't in the condo any longer. But she had previously, I mean, she was an what do you call it, member of the household. And yeah, and so then I went up in her room, and it was Lori. It wasn't Jennifer's. It was Lori. Wait a minute. It wasn't Jennifer's. Shit. No, I think it was Jennifer's bedroom. I never did go to Lori's bedroom, but it was like Jennifer's bedroom, her ex-bedroom. And I looked in the closet, and there was everything, it was vacant. Everything was empty in her bedroom, except there was like 8 blouses, and they were just kind of old looking, outdated, and frumpy. And they all were kind of like whitish with like blue designs on them, and they were just kind of like blouses. And I remember thinking, you know, like I knew they were old. I knew she had they didn't look old, but they were older, outdated. And I remember thinking I'm going to steal a few of them because I knew Aunt Elaine wouldn't really care, you know, and Jennifer didn't want to take them with her, you know, whenever she moved out of the condo. So I was going to steal some of them. And anyway, so after I was looking at all the blouses, but every single one of them was almost identical. Like they all were like 90% identical. I mean, they weren't exactly identical, but 90% of them were like, they were all like 90% identical. It's like Jennifer just didn't like those kind of blouses, and she left them in the closet. And I was going to steal some of them because I knew Aunt Elaine wouldn't notice. And so then I went back outside and I rollerbladed for a little while, and then I somehow misplaced, you know, my box of rollerblades. And so then I went walking down the sidewalk. I don't know what direction you call that. North. I'll pretend like if I'm standing in front of the condo, it's to the right. I walked down the sidewalk, so that would be east. I walked down the sidewalk, and then I walked west. And there was like a little parking lot area, and this guy had all these like boxes stacked up, and it was like he was a lost and found type of guy or something. And so I started looking at all the boxes, and I'm like, boom, that's my rollerblades right there. That's my box of rollerblades. And so he gave me the box. It was very vivid. You know, it had like red letters, and it was a brown box. It had like red letters and shit on it. And there was some black markings and stuff. And I knew that was my box of rollerblades that I had misplaced. And I figured somebody stole them, but they didn't. And so he gave them back to me. And like I said, I figured somebody was going to find my drone and steal it, but they didn't. I found it. But that went on for quite a while, and that was kind of fun. Oh yeah, and then I had this other scenario recently where I was, on YouTube, I was like, I was listening to some Holocaust survivors or whatever, and then so in this scenario, it's like I was kind of like, and the aliens, they've done this many times before. They'll put me in this town, but I'll be like way over on the north part of town, but in the scenario, it's like such a blast, such an awesome area to be in, you know, feels like you're in a different dimension, blah, 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 blah. And I'll be shopping or riding my bike or whatever. And in this scenario, we were kind of like over there on the north part of town, kind of near Kearney and shit. Except in the scenario, it felt much different. And so I was with this strange woman was with me, and she's like, can I drive your car around town and stuff? And I was like, okay, I'll just tell you where to go. She didn't, she didn't know the town, so she didn't really know where to go. And I told her, okay, you could drive, and I'll just tell you where to go. We were gonna go shopping and stuff. And she was kind of like a Jew refugee, and her skin was kind of dark complected, and her hair was kind of dark, brownish, not blackish, but brownish. And her face, it kind of was wrinkly, you know. She looked kind of older than she was. Like she was probably like 44, but she looked older, like 54. And she kind of had a bunch of wrinkles, you know, because she kind of lived a hard life. She was kind of like a Jew refugee. And this is all kind of funny. But anyway, so yeah, so we were driving around and stuff, and I was telling her where to go and stuff. And so that kind of went on for a while. And then, we ended up back at my mom's house in my old little bitty bedroom that I used to live in back when I lived at home. And we visited my mom. And then all of a sudden, like right there by the closet door, there were two little infant baby, and they both seemed to be female. Two infant baby refugees. Now I can't remember if they were Jew refugees, but they were refugees that my mom had adopted. And I was like, weird, because I couldn't believe my mom would adopt two little infant babies. And they were just kind of like laying there in their little not strollers, I guess that's what you call it. I don't know what you call them. Little beds or whatever. And, but then I looked back. Oh yeah, I almost forgot this one part because I didn't write it down. Okay, and then I looked back at him, and they both shapeshifted into like a, what do you call it? Like the one on the right shapeshifted into like a 6-year-old, and then the girl on the left, the infant on the right shapeshifted into like a 6-year-old. The infant on the left shapeshifted into this tall, skinny, like a how old? Like I would say like a 9-year-old, and she was real skinny. So that was kind of weird. It's like they were infant babies, and then boom, they became, 5 times older. And then I looked over to the right of my old bedroom, which I don't know what my mom, in the scenario, it's like my mom was just using it as like a laundry room or something in the scenario. But it was my ex bedroom, in real life, and in the scenario, it was my ex bedroom that I used to live in. And then this was so weird. And then over to the right was like this massive camera that the older one, the 13-year-old, I can't remember if she looked more like 9 or 13. But anyway, but she was either 9 or 13. So over to the right, by just up, right there by the wall, there was this camera, like this camera system that she built. It wasn't a camera, it was like this camera system, this whole system that she built herself. And it was like, let's see, 3 feet tall or 3.4 inches tall. It was pretty tall. And the middle part was this big old camera with these big old protruding lenses. And the top part was like, I don't know, like big flashers that was on the top part. And the bottom part was just kind of like the stand she had built. It was all blackish looking. It was all, it was all black, like the camera system that she built. But it was so crazy and wild. And I was just like, wow, she must have talent because she's so young. But that was really weird. But that wasn't a real good scenario, but I figured I'd talk about it because it was still kind of neat. Okay, then I had this other scenario that I was standing there at a conference, and we were waiting on, me and a bunch of other people were waiting on a speech about neuroplasticity, and that woman, Annie Hopper, was standing there with me in the hall, and I was talking to and everything, and we were just waiting for it to start before we walked into the auditorium. And two, I was standing there without my mask and stuff, and I was just like, wow, I'm so glad I'm all held up, and don't have to wear my mask, and et cetera, et cetera. But anyway, so I grabbed these 2 plastic tubular bottles of juice, and one was like pink colored, and the other one was like orangey color. I know where the aliens got that from, because they do sell those like at Walmart, these gross, skinny looking plastic fruit juice or something. And so that's where the aliens got that from my brain. Oh yeah, but this was so weird. Now I can't remember where they were these plastic tubular bottles of juice were standing. But anyway, I picked them up and they were in my hands. And I even tasted one and it tasted like sauerkraut. And I haven't eaten sauerkraut in a million years, so I can't believe the aliens would take that from my brain, because that was way far back in my brain. But they can do that, you know, they can take bits and pieces when you were 2 months old or whatever. But anyway, it tasted like sauerkraut. And I kind of thought that was weird. And I put one bottle in my purse because I wanted to take it into the auditorium when the speech started, when the conference started. And eventually I forgot it was in my purse. And I looked back in my purse and I saw that the bottle was in there, and I was glad, since I wanted to take it into the auditorium, because for many minutes I was trying to find the bottle of my fruit juice, because I thought I had misplaced it. So I went walking around for quite some time looking for it, but then I looked back in my purse or whatever and realized that it was there. But anyway, that scenario lasted a lot longer. I'm just trying to talk about them in 5 minutes. Okay, so then I had this other scenario where we had went to Red Lobster, and I was the scenario started when we were all, my whole family was sitting at the table at Red Lobster. But in the scenario, it was a much different restaurant in a different dimension or whatever. It didn't feel like the Red Lobster here in real life. And the aliens had placed me in several restaurants exactly like this, almost like before. But anyway, I was at Red Lobster, or actually I should say the parking lot. When I went out in the parking lot, it's like I've been out in that parking lot several times in other scenarios. But anyway, and I've been to millions of restaurants too in other scenarios and stuff. And normally, yeah, it's it feels really different than the real thing. But sometimes it feels like the real thing or whatever, in this dimension or whatever. But anyway, so this Red Lobster, it felt different and everything, even though it was Red Lobster, and because it was like a lucid dream and everything, and the aliens didn't make it, for whatever reason they didn't want to make it like the exact one over there in this town. But anyway, so it was different in the scenario, but it was Red Lobster, and I sat there and looked at the menu. It was like my dad, mom, sister, brother, and I sat there and looked at the menu for a long time, and it's kind of funny. The first pages were like several pages. Like, I couldn't believe how thick that dang menu book was. But the first pages was all about the restaurant and its history. And so then I kept flipping through the pages. And I did finally order some stuff. And it was like noodles. It has something to do with noodles, like noodles and shrimp. And the last pages, it was so funny. As I flipped through all the pages, the last 2 to 3 pages, was like all desserts. And the pictures were really big. And they all looked like crusty baklava. That's why it looked like baklava. And that shit's so nasty. I went to this festival in Kansas City like 20 years ago. A Greek festival. And they, like, all their desserts, it looked like they would be really good. And they all were gross and soggy. That's like the nastiest shit Greek food is, or whatever. At least their desserts are. Can't remember what the other food tasted like. But yeah, it was so weird. And so we ordered our food, and they came out, the waitress came out and set us our food around the tables and stuff, and gave me my plate of food and stuff. And then all of a sudden, my brother had some some ordeal going on. And so then my mom was like, oh, well, let's get up and we got to go out in the parking lot and deal with my brother and help him out. And I'm like, she already brought us our food, I want to sit here and eat and everything. But anyway, that was fun. That was a pretty long scenario. And yeah, I mean, these scenarios are such a blast. Even when you're just, sitting at a restaurant, they're a blast. Eating food or whatever. But anyway, that scenario lasted quite a while too, probably 3 or 4 hours. So yeah, I walked out to the restaurant with my mom, in that parking lot, and that parking lot had been many other scenarios, that exact parking lot. And, well, the restaurant too, but in other scenarios, the restaurant may have been a little different, and it was a different restaurant. It wasn't Red Lobster. But yeah, it was a blast. Because I wanted to eat my food, man, because it looked, oh my God, it always looks so good. In these scenarios, the food is always like so good most of the time. Oh, see, that one I already talked about. The Peckers Beach one. Okay, that one already talked about. Oh crap, I can't do it. Oh, wait a minute. School hallway. School, walking back and forth. Oh, well then I had this other one where I was at a, walking back and work. Yeah, where I was kind of like semi at a workplace and semi at a school hallway. It kind of seemed like both, like it could have been a workplace as well as a school hallway. And I was walking back and forth from break room to break room looking for my TV dinners that I had brought. And the teachers kept bringing out dishes that, yeah, it's so weird. They kept bringing out dishes with very vivid corn in them. And I was like, I can't eat that. I kept looking down and it was all these dishes with corn. Then I started to look for my TV dinners that I brought. Like I said, I was placed in this. It seemed like it was kind of semi where I worked and semi where I went to school. But, yeah, so I started to look for my own TV dinners that I had brought. The first break room, I looked in the freezer and the TV dinners kept falling out. I mean, it was stuffed full of shit. And they were those cheap wheat TV dinners like, what the fuck? Like Marie Callender's. And well, at work sometimes, you know, the freezer did get pretty full, so that's where the aliens got that from. And it was like cheap, like Marie Callender's and Banquet Mills, and they kept falling out. And I was like, well, none of those are my TV dinners. Then I finally walked down several yards to the other break room, which was about 18 yards away down the hall. I opened them up and boom, I found the ones that I brought. The Evols, or whatever it's called. Evols TV dinners that I used to eat in real life. And also when I was walking down the hall, and so anyway, I got those, I grabbed those out of the freezer, and they were in my hands. There was like 2 of them. Also, when I was walking down the hall, as I was walking down the hall, I looked at my hands, and I had 2 small wrapped honey buns in my hand. And they used to make them bigger, but now they're making them really small, the honey buns. And so they were, in my hands, they were like the small ones. I used to give those to the possums in real life. And I opened one and I ate a little bit. And it tasted good. It tasted just like a honey bun. And I was like, oh crap. Then I started spitting it out, you know, onto the floor, because I realized it had gluten in them. And that scenario lasted quite a while too. But that was a pretty fun scenario. Okay, and then there was this other one. Let's see here. Okay, then there was another one, another OBE VR lucid dream where I was at work, and this time it was more like the real deal in my scenario, you know, like in real life. So I was at work in the scenario, and like one of the employees upstairs came down to drop off unwrapped chocolates in a cup. No, wait a minute, hold on. Yeah, so they came down to drop off in these little white cups. That they were unwrapped chocolates in a cup. And they were setting them around the break room. Because I was looking down in the cups, and there was all these like rectangle pieces of chocolate. Like 3.2 inches by 2 inch by 1.5 inch or whatever. So I ate one and was like, crap, that could have had gluten in it. This is a totally different scenario. Then I started to spit it out. Then there were, like I just said before, small, thick chocolate bars in super white packaging. They were just like completely white packaging with black letters. And they were all gluten-free. They actually said gluten-free on them. And these candy bars, like I said before, they were like 3.2 by 3.6 inches. And there were about 3 or 4 of them right there on the table. No, these were the bigger ones, I mean. The small ones in the white cups, those were like the 3-inch by 1-inch chocolate bars in those cups that he sat around the break room. And, oh yeah, that's right, it's coming back to me now. Okay, so yeah, then I started, so I had gluten in it. Then I started to spit it out. Could have had. Yeah, so what do you call it? The small ones, those weren't necessarily gluten-free, and I didn't know if they were or not. But then there were the small, thick chocolate bars in a super white packaging. They were in white packaging with black letters. And those were like 3 times bigger than the other ones. Those were gluten-free, because it said so on the label when I looked down at them. And those were the bigger candy bars, and they were like 3.2 by 3.6 inches. And like I say, there was about 3 or 4 of them just bam right there on the table where the cups of the mini chocolate bars were. And so I started eating some of that, but it was really, really good. Because the aliens know I want to start eating chocolate again, which I will eventually. I just gotta, I probably need to test it with technology or something to make sure it's 5 parts per million or 10 parts per million of gluten or whatever. But, yeah, so that was kind of weird and fun. Okay, so then, let's see here. Then I had this other scenario where I was at work again, but this is a completely different day, completely different scenario. I was at work, and the big old area over there where it looks like crap, because that's the part that they designated to be separate from where I work, and it's going to be another company. It still needs to be renovated and everything. So the aliens placed me over there in that area, and I was asking Joel to give me a flying, like a flying, where I could fly and shit, or, where it's like there's no gravity or whatever, kind of like you're out in space. I told him I wanted to fly or float or whatever. So I was floating and flying around while Angie was there with me, my friend Angie, and like I said, we were at work in that area, and I was floating and flying around, and I went up to talk to the secretary, and in real life there used to be a secretary over there, and in this scenario, it was a different woman, it was a different secretary, but she was behind the table, or behind her desk over there at the right part of the building, with the empty part of the building. I mean, it was actually still pretty empty in the scenario, but there was still a few desks and stuff in the scenario. And so the secretary was behind the desk and everything over there to the right part of the building. Okay, so then from there, wait, hold on. Oh, I didn't say all the parts of it. Hold on. Check at the bottom. Oh, that's right, because I was just trying to write down bits and pieces. I didn't write about the whole thing because I thought I'd remember it all. But too much time went by and I've already forgotten some, but it's already came back to me. So anyway, I started floating around and flying around, and I flew up to that secretary. And I was like, wow, this is so much fun. And I was like at least 8 or 9 feet, in the air. 8 or 9 feet in the air. And she looked up at me, and I was like, wow, can she still see me, way up high like this? But she had glasses on, and she looked up at me, so I knew she could still see me even though I was floating. And we started talking and everything, and then after I kind of flew lower, she had this table right behind her, this little table. After I flew lower, I started picking like these rings and stuff out of a little bowl. It's like I had placed some of my jewelry in her bowl for whatever reason, and I was picking up some of my pieces of jewelry and stuff out of that bowl. So that was one part of the scenario, and then there's another part of the scenario where I was like, okay, I want to see how fast I can fly. So I told my brain, as I was flying towards the other part of the wall, where that other empty room is in real life, and even in the scenario, those were the empty rooms over there. I told myself to fly faster when I went over to the other side of the wall, and I went, back the other direction where I had the whole area to myself, where me and Angie were at or whatever. And then I was more, then I was only about 3 feet above the ground, and so I sprawled out when I was floating, and I told myself to travel like vroom, like go really fast. And at first I couldn't go any faster. Then finally I started going faster and traveling faster to where that other empty room was. And yeah, so it was kind of fun. Okay, so after that, after I was at work and everything, okay, well, reached down and took some. Oh, whoops. Okay, I already said that on the other part. Okay, hold on. I couldn't understand why there was a chunk at that bottom. I already talked about that. When I was by the secretary, there was a bowl to the left hand side of her, behind her, and that's when I started getting my jewelry and stuff. For whatever reason, I don't know why I placed the jewelry there, and I reached down and I took some of the jewelry, and I couldn't believe that I was really floating. Oh yeah, and I looked at her really clearly. It was very vivid. This was all very vivid experience. She kind of had short grayish hair, and like I said, I saw her look way up at me with her glasses on and everything, and I was like surprised because I wasn't sure if she could look that far up for whatever reason, because I knew, she had glasses on, so I didn't know if she had good eyesight with her glasses on. But anyway, I was at least, I don't know, like about 8 feet off the ground. And I was like, wow, I can really float and travel around in the air. But like I say, at first I couldn't go any faster, and then I just kind of told myself, come on, I want to go faster, and then I started to travel faster. And like I say, I did ask for that experience. But anyway, okay, so the second part of the scenario, okay, so then from there, me and Angie went to this older couple's ritzy apartment. And they seemed kind of familiar. I'm not exactly sure who they were, but they were kind of familiar to me. And they had like ritzy appliances and cabinets. And this is funny. I started walking down the hall near the front door. Because I wanted to go check out the bathroom. So I went into the bathroom, and there was like ritzy. Yeah, so as I went down the hall, there was the front door, and over to the right was the bathroom. And there were ritzy artwork on the wall near the front door before entering the bathroom on the right. And I was like, wow, ritzy stuff. But I couldn't understand why there was a chunk at the bottom right corner taken out of the carpet. This is so hilarious. But what I thought was ritzy artwork was a piece of freaking carpet. And it wasn't pretty carpet. It was just kind of like shag, ugly carpet. But in the scenario, like, it was ritzy to me. It was carpet, but it was supposed to be decorative. Okay, so both down. Oh, okay, I already said all that. But yeah, that was really weird because it was like literally carpet. And we we walked around the kitchen and stuff. Did I already say all that? But anyway, we were in, and they were walking around and we were talking and stuff. I can't remember what we said, but we were talking. It's like they were familiar to me. It's somebody I knew in real life or whatever. And anyway, so yeah, as I walked down away from the kitchen, near the front door, over to the right was the bathroom, and over to the right of the door was this piece of carpet, and it was considered decorative, and it was like beautiful.